Welcome to Hanging with Here to Zen, the genre-free music and lifestyle podcast presented by Here to Zen magazine. This is the place to come to celebrate all types of music, lifestyle, and more. We are glad you have come along for the ride, so sit back and enjoy the episode.
All right, mate. So Chris sent me the book.
Yeah.
So congrats. I love when I read a book. It's like a linear kind of read, but then there's a few little zigzags on it, you know. And I love the fact that you pull no prisoners, even when it's against yourself.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of books are really self-serving, and you didn't do it. So was that always your intention, to just be straight up?
Pretty much. You always look at yourself as a person. Over the years, I've always tried to be straight up, you know, and good or bad, and say what I feel. And of course, sometimes I overstep my mark and I get paranoid that I've said too much. But that's just natural human interaction, I guess. But yeah, I think it's, you know, for some reason at this point, because when the book was suggested, I'd always kind of half joked about doing something like this.
Yeah.
But then I thought that because it was kind of post-COVID, or during COVID maybe, things for everyone got a little bit strange. I just thought it was a good point in time to sort of reflect before moving forward, wherever that takes me, I guess, you know.
All right, so what are you hoping people actually learn from the book?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it, really? I mean, I think it's balanced with some fun escapades, you know, but it's also hopefully a window into the fact or the vision that I'm like anyone else, you know, and go through good times, bad times like anybody else. But I'm hoping in some ways it gives me an opportunity to talk further about the whole industry and how it can be and how you interact in music, and also I feel quite lucky to be given the opportunity to be able to travel and stuff, you know, and also maybe some young kid might read it and go, well, I can do that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's good. You know?
And you said, like, talking about the industry, because I'm sure people see a TV show or are behind the music and they realise that that's like a 1% of what really goes on. If you had a young kid sitting across you with his guitar and he's saying, I'm going to be in a metal band, what's the most important piece of advice you'd give him?
Well, try and keep your feet on the ground is important. And I think something that doesn't go on too much is when you become, you know, you're young, you form a band, you're not interested in money. That's the last thing. The industry's interested in that. Be careful, get that advice. And also try and communicate within your band, because egos can soon take over. You know, we all have them. It's just how we kind of interact with each other. And I've had to, even now, the way we work together as Napalm. You know, have you got days? Have you bad days?
Yep.
We're all capable of saying that one thing and go, God, why did I say that? You know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more of that involved in just playing your music. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of dead time on tour.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I joined Napalm, I was like, you know, I'm not really interested in drinking. That kind of changed over a couple of years, you know, when I had Jesse and Mitch with me and we were bonding, and it's a lot of dead time. That's how you use your time, you know, really. Because I've crashed and burned a couple of times, so it's not clever. So all that really, you know, it's, I like to think maybe it's not about being smarter. It's just being aware of the circus that it can be, I suppose.
Yeah.
Good, not bad.
And bringing that back to the book, the one thing I like about the way you've written the book is you're writing it from a communicative point of view.
Yeah.
And people don't realise that the music business is as much communication as it is music.
Yeah.
You've got to build those relationships. And like in the book, you get people like your sister or different people adding their take on what they saw. Was that important for you to draw on other people's experiences to bring that communication forward?
Well, I think it's good to. I mean, my sister said stuff that I couldn't really remember in some ways, or bits and pieces. And of course, you remember things the way you think they are. I wanted other people to have their say, good or bad, really.
Yeah.
Because where I'm at in this particular point in my life, that's important to me. I'm constantly self-reflecting. I'm married and have a young family, and that's been amazing, but also tough.
Yep.
Because you are different. You are on tour. You are at home. It's trying to work out when to take that mask off. Sometimes you can wear the mask all the time. It's not very good, So to me, it was important to see what other people thought. Not like I'm putting you to the test here, but like just say what you want to say.
Was there anything that had to be left out for legal reasons?
I'm just trying to think. Not necessarily. No, we were pretty. I think a couple of things we had to. When I was talking about my friend's band from Japan in Glastonbury, I wanted to double check that they were okay with that because it could be very sensitive about that. But nothing really. I mean, there's a couple of things I probably didn't talk about, some of our crazier times, which. But generally no. Yeah.
Now, one thing Aussies may or may not know about is the Peel sessions and how important Peel was as a DJ. Like, I know he's the first one to ever play Def Leppard on the radio in the UK. You did 3 Peel sessions. How important is John Peel to breaking artists in the UK?
Well, he was before he passed away, of course. It came from that lineage of 1960s, 1970s DJs, but his whole attitude to me was just so different. He believed that if he played a record by a band that he didn't like it, there was a problem with him.
Right.
And he would re-listen. But it's just I didn't know. I knew more of Tommy Vance when I was growing up from the Friday Rock Show, but then when I joined Napalm, Mick introduced me to the world of John Peel. And, we would play play shows, we'd come back and listen to John Peel. Yep. He would play everything from The Fall to Cocktail Twins to, that's how we used to. I think people sometimes get surprised how varied we are with our musical taste, but we always listen to lots of stuff because of him.
Yep.
And it was just, for me, even though I was friends with Napalm Death before I joined them, within 2 months of being in the band, there was the first Peel session. I had a band called Unseen Terror at the time, and I did like 3 Peel sessions with different bands, and it was just, to me, I marvelled at the fact that this guy was just totally into extreme music. He's willing to take it on board. And then after through the 90s, he really championed all different kinds of music. So and then it was a household name. I mean, we won I think it was the Spirit of Independence at Kerrang Award, and he presented that to us, and that was a special moment. Yep. I mean, I remember him inviting us around for a Sunday lunch once after a gig. We never went for some reason. I think we always kicked ourselves. And then after he passed away, they had the John Peel archives, and I got invited to his house and saw his record collection. He had more copies of Napalm albums than me.
Wow. That's great.
I'm like, where the hell did he get all these from? Just like multiple copies. But it was really interesting as well, because growing up in a small village and loving bands like Slade and The Sweet, it was just interesting to go through his record collection. I'm like, oh God, there's Slade, there's The Sweet, because obviously he's from the same. So it was just it was a very nice experience. But it was. You don't always want to say one of a kind, but it's something very special about it.
And do you think that is a lost art form now? The radio DJ actually not being afraid to break a new act?
I don't see it in that way like I did with him. There was just this unassuming character who would just go from a Napalm Death track to some African tribal music, and I love that, because I've taken that on board. I like that. I can play something completely mellow, something insanely noisy, and it's just all brilliant music to me. I think I owe a lot of that to John Peel, really.
Yeah. You mentioned that your dad was in a brass band.
Yeah.
Now, my father was a military drummer, so I know when you say in the book how much it rubs off on you without you knowing it.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I remember I've only recently been thinking about this, because he would drive in the car, and the military brass band music we were playing, whistling away, And of course, when you're younger, you're like, bloody hell, you know. But as years have gone on, and I've kind of tried different musical projects, I find myself driving around and whistling. I go almost like my dad, whistling around. It's crazy, you know. And now experimenting musically with different things. All that it is just seeping in. I recently started working on a project which I just finished, and you know, I started singing on that, a very kind of crooning kind of voice, and that would stem from my mum's love of Sinatra and stuff like that. And at the time when you're growing up, you're like, you know, almost anti that, but it just seep into you. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's great as you go, you know, as you hopefully, you know, you move through your life, and it's great. It's a great way of almost sort of honouring your parents as well.
I agree. Yeah, and I thought about it and I was like, wow, I would sit there and like, you know, be playing on to Kiss or Metallica or on my drum kit, but then in between, like thinking of the next song to play, there was always a military, like just paradiddles and stuff. You don't realise you're doing it until after you're doing it, and then you go, oh, just like that.
Yeah. I mean, I know you had the trumpet, and I would find that, and I'd try to play it. He stopped for a while, but then right before, I think about 6 months before he passed away, unfortunately, he then told me he could like, oh yeah, I can read, you know, read and write music. I'm like, why have you never told me?
Yeah.
Because you know, my angle's a little different to his, but it's weird. But I do think I find it interesting when you find little pieces of your parents, and that's normal and good, you know.
Yeah.
It's great.
Now you say you regretted not originally joining Napalm when you were asked. Was there any other regrets?
I don't think. Well, I don't think so really. I mean, I think. Well, you know, there's times when I've been away on tour such a lot. I wish I'd have gone and seen my parents a little bit more when I got back, because I was very close to my parents. You know, you always come back from touring exhausted. But the Napalm thing, I mean, it is kind of a regret. But also, I'm far more comfortable on the bass guitar as well. So it's like, you know, but it's interesting. For me, it's interesting to reflect on that in a way, because the songs that appeared on the second album I had when they asked me to join, and it's one of those like sort of may seem trivial, but I sort of do regret it in some ways. I think the B-side of Scum would have been quite different if I'd have joined then. Yep. Because I prefer the A-side myself personally. But there you go. So, yeah.
Did you ever find out if what Tom Hanks said was true?
I don't know for sure. I mean, I've got to speak to my friend Trey, who's working at the movie companies like Grip and stuff. But I can't imagine him saying him making it up, you know. Yeah. But if it is true, then it's pretty funny.
It's brilliantly obscure.
It is. Well, I mean, these things start to happen from time to time. You know, it's like doing the show yesterday and Boy George coming down.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, it's like from my era of. I mean, something I don't think I mentioned in the book. I remember at my secondary school, we have a thing called Top of the Pops. I don't think it's around anymore. So they're Top of the Pops, and so we did Dio, Rainbow in the Dark. I was Dio, and of course we won £3, but the winner was somebody who impersonated Cultureclub. So yesterday I sit there going, this is absolutely bizarre. Yep. In a way, you know, you think back to when you were like 13, 14, and then to do a gig, you know.
I wonder how many people spotted him last night. That would have been a trip if people spotted him up there.
I mean, Brad showed me the picture. It was pretty dark, but he was like completely in his element. Apparently, they all watched. They're all him and his entourage were just flipping out at this gig, and I'm like, to me, if you'd have told my 14-year-old self, it was like, yeah. I didn't hate any of that music. I mean, I embrace it more now than I probably did. It's certainly sunk in. Yeah. A lot of that 80s sort of new wave dance music, whatever you want to call it, certainly has influenced me more now. But if you'd told me when I was 14, you know, yeah. It's pretty surreal, really.
And that just shows there's only two kinds of music, good and bad.
Pretty much, yeah. That's it. It's good and bad. And you know, people in or out of music, people are open-minded, and you become possibly more open-minded maybe as you get older. I don't know, but it is definitely, as we say, a testament to those things as you're growing up, subliminally soaking in. Yeah. You know, and coming out like now, I notice things. I'm like, well, this just takes me back. I like to go down and the studio and sort of sit there for hours zoning out my electronic music, and my friend is a little bit of an therapist, I suppose. Now he says, well, you're kind of returning to your days when you were 5, 6 years old, and you're back at your nan's, and you were like, that's your solitude bit, you know. And so it's pretty interesting.
Well, there you go. What is that one song for you that when you hear it just shuts the world out?
That's a tricky one. There's a few, probably. It's a tricky one. I mean, Stargazer by Rainbow, probably, is a song, because we used to have headbanging competitions to that when we were kids.
Yep.
And, but it was really nice a couple of years ago. I was playing that to my daughter. She loves Stars and stuff. But she nailed the chorus, but just as soon as the second time she started singing the words, I was like, wow, you got that, you know. So that's a great track for me. You know?
And do you have a favourite line check, sound check riff that when you plug in, you've just got, if your sound's right by the way you play that riff?
Usually, it's not so much a riff. It's just, but you haven't played for a while. Sometimes you can question yourself if you can. But it's our sound engineer has the bass sound dialed in so much that if he's not there, it won't sound the same. You know, but. We'll just do some little discharge riff or something, something nice. And I can tell if it's the right balance of clean and distortion. And with him on board, usually, you know it's okay.
You would have had a good one last night. The sound in that venue is pretty.
It was good, yeah. It was a great show. It was a good vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And of course, it makes me remember about the movie The Day of the Triffids. So I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd. So I thought, oh wow, Triffids, great. But, yeah.
What do you want people to actually take away? They've read the book. If they're like me, I can't read a book once. I actually have to go back 2 or 3 times because I just need to get it.
Yeah.
So, what do you hope people are going to take away?
Well, I'd hope that it's a read about one person, it's cliche to say, it's sort of following his heart, really, you know, which sometimes gets hard to do, you know, and I think in this day and age it's really sometimes very hard to face the fear and go with it, you know. And then the older you get, I think it becomes a little bit harder. When you're younger, you're a bit more braver, perhaps, you know. So it's just really just about, hopefully there's a little bit of humour in there, you know. Again, but just hopefully people can go, well, if they choose, like this is a journey I might like to take, you know.
Awesome, man. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for coming back to Australia. I'm sure we'll be back in a year or two.
Every time I come down here, I'm always texting my wife, going, can't we just move down here?
I get you.
Thank you for tuning in to Hanging with Here to Zen. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and guest. Remember to add Here to Zen on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We are also on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up to date on all of our new content. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all of your favorite podcast platforms. We would love if you could take the time to write us a review and leave a comments wherever you have tuned into today's episode. This helps us reach a wider audience and create more amazing content to share with you all. We are grateful for all of your support. Until next time, you have been hanging with Here to Zen.